Hello YouTube! Today I want to actually approach you with one of my TOK, or my only TOK presentation, which is TOK is a subject in the IB, which is called Theory of Knowledge, which is basically about the theory of knowledge. Like, how do we know stuff, and is it reliable, the stuff we know, and do we know anything, and so on and so forth. And my TOK presentation was actually really successful. I got 10 out of 10, so I got the best mark I could get. And I am very content with that, obviously, because I couldn't get any better. And I just really wanted to present you guys with my presentation. I haven't even gone through it since I had it in May, but I feel like I know it pretty much by heart, because this is a subject that I find really intriguing. And the topic is the impossible possible given enough knowledge? So I will be starting my presentation now. So, is the impossible possible given enough knowledge? So my real life situation is, say that a person unknowing of the technological society that we know today enters our society. This could be someone from way back, and this person, approaches this world and looks at airplanes and looks at computers and iPhones, and he doesn't really understand our technological devices and really everything around him, and is convinced that this must be pure magic and witchery. There's no other explanation to how these things work. With the knowledge that he carries, he doesn't carry as much knowledge as we carry. So my knowledge question is, to what extent can lack of knowledge influence our perception of what is possible? So if we lack knowledge, does that mean that we don't know what is possible? For example, when we say time travel isn't possible, is it really not possible, or is it just because we don't have enough knowledge? So first of all, what is knowledge? What's the difference between information and knowledge? I have this illustration here where information is like the dots, and when it turns into knowledge, you connect the dots, and you can kind of explain things through that. And there is a difference between personal knowledge and shared knowledge, where personal knowledge is stuff that you know from personal experiences, and shared knowledge is stuff that is out there, things that people discuss, and things that more than one person knows. Is shared knowledge, because it's been shared. So knowledge is, how we know the world and how we think we know the world. However, what if we were lacking some dots? Would you draw the dots incorrectly? I have this illustration here of a teddy bear, and if you couldn't count to 30 or 33, would you be able to make this teddy bear correctly? So what if you're lacking dots, or if you draw lines incorrectly, or whatever it's considered incorrectly? And also, I need to define what possibilities are. If something is possible, it means that there is a chance that something might exist, happen, or be true, the state or fact of being possible. So it's possible that I can become an airline pilot because it's something that might happen, or and then also, can we predict the effect lack of knowledge has on the perception of what is possible? Like, how do we even start predicting how lack of knowledge affects our perception of what is possible? So first of all, we can look at the society and the history of society, and that lack of knowledge in society often makes us ignorant. Often when people come with new ideas, we as a society have yet to get our knowledge on it, and we'll probably immediately deny that new idea because we don't have knowledge within that area. So new ideas have to gather a lot of knowledge so that they can really convince the majority that it is possible, and this may take a really long time, like decades. For example, for a long time ago, the society here on Earth thought that the Earth was flat, and when somebody came along and said, "Oh, it's round," it seemed not logical because we didn't have knowledge about gravity. So any possibilities that are considered to be outside common beliefs are often not considered to be possibilities because we don't have the knowledge on it. And the thing with the Earth is a good example. Oh, I'm turning red. The thing with the Earth is a good example because it was so engraved into society, and it sounded so logic that Earth was flat, because then, you know, when you walk off it, you'll fall down, and it makes sense. You jump up and you fall down. There has to be only one flat area. Turns out we didn't really have knowledge about gravity and all these physics things, so we didn't think it sounded logical that the Earth was round. Of course, now that we have the knowledge, we know that Earth is round. So, really, in society, we need more open-minded people, because when people come up with new ideas or new theories that are way out there, they don't sound real because we haven't really explored that area as a majority of people. So, minorities often lose, sadly, because minorities often have good ideas. So, not having knowledge in an area may lead to false assumptions of its possibility, such as probably when someone first mentioned something, an object flying in the air, it was like, how is that going to be possible? And then now you look at airplanes, we know about aerodynamics, and we have knowledge about it, and we know that it's possible because we've seen it so many times, which is based on, you know, eyewitness. Like, we've seen the airplane fly, so now it seems logical that airplanes fly in the air, but before that didn't seem logical. So, and often we tend to label things that we don't understand to be, you know, magic, a miracle, something supernatural, something that is just a label that covers up the mystery. We as human beings are very good at that, such as, like, if you see ghosts, that might not actually be a ghost, it might be, I don't know, some logical explanation that we haven't quite found yet. So we tend to label mysteries with some kind of term, because we love terms. So, another question. Do we jump to these conclusions because we simply carry an inability to process the information and comprehend the logic behind it? Basically, do we jump to these conclusions on the basis of lack of knowledge? Such as jumping to conclusions of things being supernatural, or something that doesn't make sense, like you thought you died for suicide, but somehow you were alive again. This must be a miracle, but really there is probably some biological explanation to it. So, do we stupidly, sort of, jump to these conclusions on the basis of lack of knowledge? And then we could also go back to the question, can we predict the effect lack of knowledge has on the perception of what is possible? If we look back in history, we can sort of predict what effect lack of knowledge has on the perception of what is possible, due to all of these, you know, in the past we called people who thought differently witches, and we burnt them because we were scared of the knowledge they had. And basically lack of knowledge is often makes things seem impossible, although they may be possible. Furthermore, is gain knowledge always the key to possibilities? Is gaining knowledge and gaining information and making that into knowledge, does that always make things possible? Or does it always lead to the truth? So that is kind of going into like the ultimate truth, or that everything is possible. So when you start off, there is always a possibility, like when you start off studying an area, there's always the possibility for something being possible, because it hasn't been investigated yet, so you don't have all these variables or factors that defy it. So we have not yet met anything that says it's impossible. We haven't met Mr. Impossible. So at this point, gaining a little knowledge, no, not having any knowledge at all, can make anything seem possible, all depending on what you believe, based on previous experiences and so on and so forth. However, as more knowledge is gained, factors defying the possibility of the theory being correct may arise. So, you know, factors that say this is impossible may come up. And then there's like a barrier. Some people stop at this barrier and say, okay, it's not possible, we can't make the airplane, so we'll just stop. You know, we tried many times, we tried some stupid airplane that didn't work, so we're just gonna stop. So some people probably did that, tried to jump off a cliff with wings and they died or something. Or not, and they just were like, got really hurt and didn't try anymore and thought it was impossible, because they had this factor appearing that said it is impossible. However, the possibility of this happening, for example, the airplane working or something, may be over that line that says it's impossible. There may be a factor that has more possibility than that impossibility that came before it, if you know what I'm saying. So, how do we cross this line? And I think that it has a lot to do with curiosity, which I really envy scientists for. So I have an example here, which is Albert Einstein. I have no special talents. I'm only passionately curious. So to cross over this line, we have to have someone who's really passionate and curious and really motivated. Because a lot of people will say, "Oh, just stop. It's not possible. Your theory isn't correct, or you can't make this airplane because we've never seen anyone do it before. And birds are smaller," and so on and so forth. All these things that say it's impossible. And we need people who are curious and people who are motivated to cross that line and, you know, make it possible. And, for example, make the airplane. And eventually now we have the airplane, which is a good advantage, but also a disadvantage to the, you know, climate on Earth. So, back to the knowledge question. Is the impossible then always possible given enough knowledge? Now, in TOK, the word always is a very specific word, a very demanding word, and we don't like in TOK to use, you know, always and this is a fact and stuff like that. So I don't think all the impossible is possible, because then there wouldn't be any impossible. And we obviously, because of, you know, the yin yang theory, we need the impossible to make something possible and to make something impossible, if you know what I'm saying. So, however, I'm gonna wrap this up by going back to my real life situation. If you were set in the real life situation where you're this person from the past coming to the future, would you believe that the world around us is even real? When you think about it, everything, almost everything you look at except trees and all these natural things are made by humans. Isn't that fascinating? Houses, trains, airplanes, iPhones, iPads, computers, makeup, you know, perfumes, alcohol, whatever, everything. Isn't that just astonishing? And if you came from like the Stone Age, would you believe that this is even real? It would seem like a dream what was in front of you, all this structure that we made. And I mean, it's so beautiful, but also some of it is so distracting. So I have a picture of this big airplane. This is the biggest passenger plane in the world, the Airbus A380. If you saw this and you were from the, let's say, 1600s, would you believe that this was logically possible? I mean, hello? It's like, how many tons? Oh, very, very heavy. Very, very heavy, many tons. Many tons. And it has lots of people in it and transfers people over many hours. I think the longest lasting airplane ride is 17 hours. Would you believe that this was right based on your knowledge from the 1600s and based on your experiences with seeing big things in the skies? You haven't seen that big things in the skies. The biggest things you've seen in the sky is probably like an eagle. And also, when you look at the internet, if you were to look at the internet and you were from the 1600s, would that be logic? Like you literally just write something to someone and it's there 1 second later, no matter if they're from China or if they're from America, or it's just fantastic. It's just so weird, and it does seem like magic. I mean, we see all these things around us, but do we really know how it works? Like, if everything you're on, like the iPhone, the computer, the internet, do you know how it's structured, how it works? No. Like, most of us don't. Most of us just use it because we can, and it's there, and it's useful to us. So back again. So, to what extent can lack of knowledge influence our perception of what is possible? So, you know, just looking at all the examples I've taken now, what will be possible in the future? Is it possible to send messages through time? Like, why would it not? Maybe we haven't gone past that impossible line yet, as I mentioned earlier. Is it possible to travel back in time? Many people are like, no, it's not, because then we would have seen people from the future. But maybe there's some way for them us not to see them. You know, we don't know how these things work. Maybe somebody has come to our current time from the future. We just don't know because they found a way around the paradox and stuff. We don't know. So conclusion, lack of knowledge. When we see something complicated, we often say that it's not possible. Like there is no logical explanation for this. So it has to be magic. It's a miracle. It's something that you just label because you're scared of looking into the complexity of it. For example, as, you know, I don't know, an airplane. How an airplane can logically fly if you're from the 1600s. How does that work? Or the internet. This doesn't make sense, so it's just magic, you know. We often jump to stupid conclusions like that. And it's really just labeling up the mystery because you don't dare to look into it because it's too complex and it's too baffling. But I really like looking into stuff like that. Also, if there are limited amounts of knowledge collected to deny the possibility, it may be viewed as possible because you haven't got any impossible factors playing any role yet. However, as you gain knowledge, you start discovering factors that support the possibility, which makes it possible. But you may also discover factors on the way that says that it is impossible. You know, factors that defy the possibility. And many people just stop at that point because it's like, okay, it's impossible because of this or that, and this big factor that says, no, it's not possible. But you never know that continuing research beyond that factor may claim that it is possible, you know? You don't know what's over that line. We don't know if the grass is green on the other side. So we need to be curious, we need to look into this, and we need to gain knowledge. Everybody just, you know, learn to like learning. So the conclusion is really kind of divided. However, ultimately, if no knowledge was ever gained, if nobody ever dared to be curious and look into these things, nothing would have been created. Everything you see around you wouldn't be here. If nobody, you know, tried to make the structure that made a house possible to stand without, you know, collapsing, we wouldn't have houses, we wouldn't have roofs over our head. If nobody dared risking their life when making an airplane, we wouldn't have that sort of transportation. It would take forever to get across the globe. And, you know, everything just kind of, curious people are who created the world, or people who created the world, ultimately, bit by bit. And if we didn't dig into more knowledge, we would not be able to observe new possibilities. Because as you go into new knowledge areas, we find new possibilities. We, as a researcher, I've heard, I'm not a researcher myself, as you go into one topic, you find questions into another topic, and it kind of just grows like that, like a snowball, and you keep finding questions. And I think it's so beautiful to look at researchers and how they find all these new things and research and stuff. So, as a humanity, I just want to wrap this up by saying we need curious people, we need patient people, and we need to stop saying that things are impossible. Stop saying it. I mean, of course things may be impossible, but there's no use saying that it's strictly just, it's impossible, because you never know. You never know. So we need curiosity and patience. And also at the end, I want to wrap up by saying, in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. For the most part, of course, if you don't have computers, if you're in some country that is less convenient or whatever, ignorance is not a choice. But mostly for most people, the age of information. In the age of information, ignorance is a choice. And also a quote by Buddha: "He is able who thinks he is able." Yeah, that was my TOK presentation. I hope it was worth a 10 out of 10, because I got a 10 out of 10. And I don't know, I just really like TOK, and I really like this presentation actually, so yay, thumbs up. Bye.